How many proper homes in Bellevue Hill do you think comes up a year? Proper houses?
I've got a little theory going at the moment with Cranbrook going co-ed.
All right, thanks Ashley for your time. Firstly, maybe a self-intro.
Thanks for having me. I was working in New York City for 10 years, working in fashion. That was a really exciting time. But when I came back to Australia, I realised I didn't want to continue on in that, and actually met with Elliot Plax, who's now sort of director, partner at Ray White Double Bay, and talked about selling my family home for my mum, actually. That was how we met, and he asked me what I was doing, and I was looking for a career change, and the rest is history. So it's been a fun journey.
So you grew up in the East?
I came to the East when I got to 14 years of age. I was living in Melbourne, grew up in Melbourne, so came to Sydney in 1988. So lived locally, grew up on, actually my family owned a property in Point Piper on Wonalla Road, number 23 Wonalla. And that was actually the property that I went to discuss with Elliot when we caught up. So yeah, had a really great experience living in the eastern suburbs. Was pretty excited to get out of here though. When I turned about 22, I was off, travelled for, and ended up staying away for a decade, but good to be back, and it's been a great journey.
What's the market been like in 2023?
I mean, I guess it's been something of a surprise to all of us. In some respects, we sort of anticipated with the interest rates starting to go up at a great pace. We thought that we may see some corrections. Haven't seen too many corrections over the course of my career, but there have been times, and we just thought that there's a possibility. But what we worked out pretty quickly was that the market wasn't slowing down. A lot of the luxury property, which is a core focus for me, isn't as impacted by that. I feel somewhat privileged to be in that space because I do know that there are sort of people out there and agents out there in other areas of Sydney that aren't having as good a time as we've had, but it's certainly been much stronger than we anticipated. I think the dynamics out there with every sort of I suppose cycle, you see different things happening. Perhaps this time round with the interest rates going up, unemployment being low, and really supply being tight, there's been some really interesting dynamics. And obviously with the Aussie dollar going sort of down and the US dollar going up, creates a lot of opportunity for people that have wealth overseas or have businesses that are succeeding overseas that are buying with international currencies. So it's certainly been a dynamic year, and we're all sort of obviously getting to the end of it now, ready for a bit of a break, but I must say that there's still a lot going on.
Talking about dynamic, what's happened with Bellevue Hill? What's changed?
You know what, growing up as a kid, Bellevue Hill was always a very attractive suburb. Little did I know that it would do the things that it's done. I guess somehow again, I've sort of found my way into this marketplace. I'm quite proud of the results that I've generated over the years. I think first and foremost, a lot of people put a premium on convenience. And I think Bellevue Hill really feels like the epicenter of the eastern suburbs. And it does provide a lot of convenience. If you want to be in the city, 15 minutes. If you want to be at the airport, 15, 20 minutes. It's surrounded by the best schools in the city and in some cases the nation. And that's a big driver as well. I've got a little theory going at the moment with Cranbrook going co-ed. I think it's going to continue to drive that school attraction. And I think that if you're driving along Victoria Road, you've got Cranbrook, Scots, and at the other end, you've got Redham. So you've got great schools. The girls' schools aren't too far away either. Proximity, community, obviously Bondi Beach is a big draw as well. Like, I think people want to be close to the beaches. So Bellevue Hill does give you that really easy sort of access to all those amazing sort of lifestyle options between the bay and the beach that Sydney, I think aspirationally as a sort of lifestyle city is something that people like want to work towards. It's aspirational living.
Let's say probably most suburbs in the east for a Chinese community right now is Bellevue Hill and Vaucluse. Any streets you reckon in the last 1 or 2 years that have sort of upgraded their tier in these two suburbs?
I suppose when you look at the very top end of the market and the tier 1 streets and positions, or AAA, because I think you've got to now rate the suburbs and the streets. And AAA, there's only a few spots in Bellevue Hill and Vaucluse. And so what I've noticed is a lot of the sort of B streets and the perceptions of those streets have been raised. Now, I guess if you were looking at Bellevue Hill, for example, the top of the hill where you've got your March Streets, Vivian, Fairweather, Roslyn, that pocket has just gone from strength to strength, and obviously with some incredible results in recent times. But it's been a slowly happening over time as that median house price keeps going up. The land value value's gone up significantly. So that pocket of Bellevue Hill is certainly an aspirational place to be. Obviously, I wish Bellevue Hill was a lot bigger as a suburb personally, because there's just not enough property to satisfy the demand. I don't think there's a weak spot. I think there's no C grade positions in my opinion these days, and I think some of what was perceived as not so good streets are now on the rise as well because of that access to lifestyle. So down the bottom of the slope, you're getting into that Rose Bay pocket, or on that eastern side, you've got amazing access to the bay and the beach, as I mentioned. On the western slope, you're down into sort of the Double Bay, into that valley, and that nice connection into Wallara. So there's a lot of lifestyle and easy access to some really amazing lifestyle opportunities. On the top of the hill, as I said, you've got your primo positions, and then as you go sort of northwest at the top, you've got your real uber luxurious estate-like properties which offer that beautiful northerly aspects and views in some cases. So I think there's obviously the entry point is getting higher and higher, but the demand's there. And it's been a great investment for so many of my clients. So every time one of these big sales goes off, I always feel great about it, because I know that all the clients that I've worked with in the past or advised are all benefiting and reaping the rewards for their investments. Vaucluse, I would say Hopetown Avenue, from when I was growing up, was probably considered to be a very good street, but today it's really, obviously we're now seeing that entry level property sort of 10 million. It's significantly shifted. Then there's obviously all the streets that come off that in the lower part of Vaucluse, which are all very strong. But I think if I was going to say the part of Vaucluse which has lifted is probably closer to Rose Bay, and it's probably just because there's less time to travel. And it comes back to that convenience and less time in the car, and people put a premium on that. If you want that deep Vaucluse, you get that connection to the ocean and the water and the harbour. But when you come back a bit, you get more of the convenience and the cosmopolitan lifestyle that the villages offer.
So just the gut feel, doesn't have to be very correct, but how many proper homes in Bellevue Hill do you think comes up a year? Proper houses?
I mean, I'm across a lot, to be fair. Like, I can't remember looking at the exact numbers. I don't like to look too closely because I don't want to think about the ones that I missed out on. But if I was going to put a sort of guess out there, I'd say there's been a really amazing run this year, and more transactions than I've seen in a long time. And I think there are a lot of vendors that have been feeling good about putting their properties on the market because they've seen that growth. Above 5 million, I'd say maybe 30 or 50, somewhere in that, 30 to 40. I don't know, you might know better.
Well, that's very scary, because the whole world that's coming back to Australia, the expat, either from all over the world or China, it's not 50. A lot of wealthy ones, it's good, a few hundred, a few thousand.
I could be wrong on the numbers, but you're right. I always explain to people when they ask me, how is that possible? Why is this market running so hard? I say, look, you've got to have a macro view of the real estate market in the eastern suburbs. And if you look at the eastern suburbs as a whole, it's less than 5% of Sydney's population live in the east. It's an aspirational place to be. There's 60,000 properties, and you keep going, zooming out, and you go, then think about Australia, 25 million people. Think about the wealth of this nation. Think about all the people that are living abroad that want to come home. Think about the immigration of people that are coming in, that have been given that opportunity, which is awesome, that integration. So we're seeing a lot with that with the Chinese community. You've got this sort of obviously very dynamic marketplace just for all of those reasons, and there's just a finite amount of stock. So it creates this sort of micro market in a sense, which is definitely protected just by the forces of supply and demand. It's obviously a very exciting place to work, and to work with families to try and find them properties.
So with Chinese buyers these days, you obviously deal with a lot of them in these. What would your best advice for them?
I guess in a sense, the advice that I would be giving would be the same to anyone, is that be patient, obviously, do your due diligence. Speak to as many people as you can in terms of whether you're buying or selling that are going to give you the right information, but make sure you go out there and get as much information as you can. And engaging a buyer's agent, I think, is also, if you're buying and you're new to the city, I think can fast track and expedite that sort of getting into your family home quicker, and also help you cut through a lot of the noise, because it's not an easy sort of marketplace to understand straight away. It's got its complexities, but I think, obviously you're more than welcome to come and speak to me anytime.
东区唯一华人背景 Tier 1买家中介，让华人在东区真正拥有优质房屋资源，